Let's be honest. When you're working with a sales team, one of the more difficult things that you have to deal with is making sure that everybody has enough people to call and nobody feels like they're being slighted. Everybody feels like they're getting their share of the pie, so to speak, right? And with PhoneBurner, whenever you're importing a list, whether that's a list of 1,000, 10,000, 50,000, doesn't matter. When you're importing a list of contacts into PhoneBurner, there are several ways that you can distribute that data out to your team. And one of the ways that we're going to talk about on this specific training is a feature that we call a RoundRobin lead stream. A RoundRobin lead stream allows you to distribute data to your team, whether that's an imported file or those are leads that are coming in real time via the API or Zapier or anything like that. A RoundRobin lead stream allows you to fairly distribute leads to your team, and that's what we're going to talk about on our training today. Is we're going to go through and create a RoundRobin lead stream, and then we're going to import this list of 1,000 demo contacts. And we're going to set it up so that the system automatically, dynamically distributes this data. So everybody gets one lead before anybody gets a second lead. And everybody gets a second lead before anybody gets a third lead. So it's kind of like dealing cards from a deck of cards, right? Everybody gets one, and then you just keep going around and around and around until the list is either completely emptied or everybody's received their share for the day. So I'm going to move this off the screen in PhoneBurner. I'm going to go to Contacts. From the Contact Manager, over on the right-hand side, I'm going to click on the gear and go down to Lead Stream. Now, if you've been watching my other videos or the other videos related to this training module, then you've probably already been here to the lead stream page and seen this and watched me create different lead streams already. And hopefully, you've even saved this lead stream page as a quick link so that you can get there even faster. But here we are on the lead stream page where you'll be able to see any of your lead streams that you've previously created or create a new lead stream. And that's what we're going to do right now is we're going to create a new lead stream. I'm going to enable it. And then I'm going to name it. I'm going to name this lead stream, Everyone Gets Their Share of the Pie. And now I'm going to give it a description. And this is a RoundRobin lead stream that will distribute leads to all of the team members in the lead stream so I don't have to manually break up the file and import it into each user's account or transfer leads between users. So the idea behind a RoundRobin lead stream is to handle the distribution of the leads to the team members. So now when we go down here to the details section, the first thing we need to define is the type of lead stream. Now, again, if you've watched some of the other videos, we've already talked about blind/preview poll. This one we're specifically going to talk about is a round robin. Again, everybody's going to get one lead before anybody gets a second lead. And it's going to go round and round and round until everybody's got their share from the pool of leads that I import or are added through the API. So the next thing we need to define is the distribution folder. Where will the leads live in PhoneBurner that need to be distributed? So when I import my data, I could create a folder that I put them in, and then I could create the lead stream. In this case, I'm just going to create the lead stream and the folder at the same time. So here I'm going to click on Create a New Folder. And let's name this. I'm going to name this folder RoundRobin Everyone Gets Some. Click OK. And I just want to point out, in most cases, I will name the lead stream and the distribution folder the same, but they do not have to be the same. It can be better for you to name them the same. That way you can always associate the folder with the lead stream. But again, I wanted to point out and show you that they don't have to be the same. Now, you may have noticed a theme here. I keep saying things like everyone gets their share of the pie. We're going to evenly distribute. And the reason why I am mentioning that in this lead stream, and I have not been mentioning that on the other types of lead streams, is because a blind pull lead stream, a user starts dialing and the system just feeds them leads. So one user could make more calls than another user and technically call more contacts from the pool. Whereas a round robin lead stream, we're going to give each user a certain portion of the leads, whether they call them or not, which can be good, can be bad, right? Just depends on your team. So if your organization, if the team members on your team are all in charge of working their leads, like you give them the leads and then they're in charge of making sure that they work them consistently, but you want to make sure everybody gets their portion, then the round robin lead stream is the right type because it'll allow you to evenly distribute them to the team. So the next thing we need to define is the receiving folder. The distribution folder is where we put the contacts as an admin to distribute them out to the team. The receiving folder is the folder in which the individual users are going to receive those leads, where they would go to find the leads that have been distributed to them. In this case, I am going to create another new folder. I'm going to call this, you know what, let's call that, what did I call that one? RR Everyone Get Some. Let's call this one RR My Leads. So round robin my leads. Click OK. And I'm going to lock this in. Again, we've talked about it on different trainings. Sometimes it makes sense to lock it. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to lock it. But in the case of a round robin lead stream, my recommendation would be that you lock it and then you build a series of saved searches to help each team member consistently, efficiently, and effectively work through that data. But again, it's up to you whether or not you want to lock that folder. Again, if you don't lock it, it'll still set the folder, but they'll have the ability to change what folder they receive those contacts in. Now, recycle folder. Do we want to recycle these leads at some point in the future? I'm a big fan of recycling. You don't have to recycle. I am going to recycle these leads because I want to talk about it on the training. But again, you don't have to recycle. If you want to give those leads to people and they just own them and they're in charge of them, you don't have to recycle. But in this case, I will recycle. I'm going to recycle back to the round robin everybody gets some lead stream. And I do want to point out, when you're recycling leads from a round robin lead stream, you have to have a minimum of 10 hours. You can't go lower than 10 hours. Like if you try to do 2 hours or 20 minutes or anything like that, the system won't let you save that. In fact, let me try. Yeah, it'll error out when you try to save it. But the reason why is because we're giving leads to somebody without them actually having to make a phone call. Right? We want to give them time to actually work that data. And so we need to give them plenty of time. And so we do have a limit of at least 10 hours for a round robin lead stream. My recommendation though would be give your reps days to work those leads, whether that's at least 1 day or 7 days or whatever, right? Give them days to work those leads. And then if they haven't been able to close the deal within that amount of time, then maybe we should recycle them and get them over to somebody else's account. But that would be my recommendation, is that we're doing at least days when it comes to a round robin lead stream. Additionally, when it comes to a round robin lead stream, this other option here for the recycle rules comes into play quite often, in my opinion. So we can, by default, the recycle time will start the moment the lead is distributed. The moment we distribute that contact to the team member, we will start the recycle time countdown. But you can reset, you can set it up so that the recycle time will reset every time they call that contact. And that can be really effective. It'd be really a good setting when it comes to a round robin lead stream. That way, if somebody's consistently working their leads, we never take those leads from them. We allow them to continually reset that recycle time as long as they're calling them. But the moment they stop calling those contacts and those contacts are still in that receiving folder and that time passes, then that's when we want to take them away. So again, I'm going to change this to from time lead was last called. That way my team members, when they get leads, they can continually work those leads as long as they're calling them. And then this last option, sort by custom field. This really doesn't matter in a round robin lead stream because once we distribute the leads to our team members, they can sort them any way they want. But if you do have some sort of a rating system or prioritization system and you want them to get distributed with the highest priority first, then maybe it would make sense. But in most cases, most people are just going to leave this alone and let the team members sort the leads once they've received them. And then now the real last option is the miscellaneous. There's no real reason to hide this because if you're going to distribute all of the leads from the round robin lead stream, then it'll always show 0. But if you're going to limit how many leads somebody gets each day or the total leads, then it might make sense to kind of hide that total number of leads in the pool. So people aren't seeing that there's leads available and they're not getting any more. Now, granted, they will see that they've hit their limit. So it's up to you whether or not you want to hide that. But if you're not going to limit them, then this is really irrelevant because it'll always be 0 because we're going to distribute everything. Now, the final option is to add recipients. Let's go on to the next page and let's add some team members. Now, there are some differences in adding team members for a round robin than some of the other lead streams. And so some stuff is exactly the same, right? You can select individual team members and you can add them. You can select a group of people by selecting the top one and the bottom one and holding shift when selecting the bottom one. And that'll select everybody in between. Or you can hold down control and select individual users so that you can add multiple team members at once. You'll also notice that there is no total lead limit. There's only a daily lead limit when you're importing or when you're adding someone to a round robin lead stream. So everybody's limits are only daily lead limits. So what I want to do is I want to show you here. Let's go ahead and add, let's add everybody with a limit of 10, just for fun to start with. So we added everybody. You can see when we add everybody at once, we give everybody the same settings at the same time. Once we've added everybody, we can edit them and change their daily lead limit on an individual user basis. But you'll also notice that everybody is listed in the Add New Recipient section still. They're listed as already added, but they're still listed here. And this is key for some of our team members, some of our users. You might have one team member, like let's say Heather is really good and we want to make sure that she has plenty of leads. So we want to give her twice as many leads as everyone else. So we can actually add her a second time. And she could get 2 leads. Every time it cycles through, she would get 2 leads. Now, of course, if you're putting a daily lead limit on there, then we could have, of course, just made this 20. And every day she would get twice as many leads as everyone else. But if we're not going to put any daily lead limits on there, then adding someone multiple times will increase their share of the pool, their share of the data, right? So I'm putting some limits in here because I want to show you how the limits work. But again, you can have somebody get a higher percentage of the leads by adding them multiple times. So again, I'm going to leave Heather in there. We're going to have the daily lead limits, and then we're going to import some data now so that you can see how this process works. So before we import our data, let's jump over to the folder section. Let's reorder our folders. So here's our new lead stream, RR My Leads and RR Everyone Gets Some. Actually, I want to do this the other way like that. Perfect. Okay. So now let's go to contacts. We can see our folder set up here. Let's import. Browse to find our files. And here I've got my 1,000 demo contacts. So I've got 1,000 records in this list. And now we just need to map the data from our file to the fields in PhoneBurner. So we got first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, phone number, email address. Maybe we've got a website, right? So we can come in here, we can map everything out. Let's go here. I'm not going to worry about importing that. I have a date field. I do have a date field. Notes, company name, priority. If we cared about priority, we're going to bring that in. All right, so we've got our file map. Now let's go to next. The next option is the folder. Where are we going to import these contacts into? In this case, it's our RoundRobin Everyone Gets Some folder. We could tag them if we wanted to tag them. We can add a lead source. I'm a big fan of lead sources, so I highly recommend that every lead that you import come in with a source. RoundRobin Everyone. I'm not going to scrub for duplicates because I know the phone numbers and email addresses here are possibly already in there because they're just my demo contacts, right? So let's go next. We see a preview here. We click yes, please import, and now the system will start to process this file. We don't have to stay on this page if we don't want to. It'll continue to import whether we stay on this page or not. So I'm going to jump over to contacts. And the system will notify me as soon as that file is done being imported. It'll pop up over here in the upper right-hand side of the screen, which we just saw it come up. And now we know if I go to the RR Everyone Gets Some folder, we'll see all of our data in here. In fact, there is 960 contacts, not a full 1,000. But wait a second. No, there was 1,000 in there. Now we need to think about this, right? Why do I only have 960 in here when I just imported 1,000? This is a RoundRobin lead stream. A RoundRobin lead stream will distribute data as soon as there's data available and there's team members available to receive it. See, that's what's different between a RoundRobin and a blind poll or preview poll lead stream is the data stays there until somebody claims it or takes it out or makes a phone call to the contact. Whereas a RoundRobin, boom, we immediately distribute that data to the team members. Now remember, we've got our 3 team members in there and the data is going to the RR My Leads folder. So in the admin, if I go to the RR My Leads folder, I see 10 contacts in that folder. Now, why do I only have 10 in here? That's because as the admin, when I was added to the lead stream, so I'm going back to the lead stream page. Let's go and view our recipients, manage our recipients. You'll see everybody got their 10. Heather actually got 2 batches of 10 because she's on there twice, and you can see that Jeff is next in line to receive a lead. If I wanted to, I could, of course, change that daily lead limit. I can pause somebody so that they're not getting any more leads from the pool. But because there's still data available, tonight at midnight, the system will refresh and distribute out another 10 to everybody on the list. So let's go and make sure that Heather actually got her 20. So let's go to the team tab. Let's log in as Heather. And let's go to the RR My Leads folder. And sure enough, Heather has 20 leads. Now, what if we put in a daily lead limit, but we really don't want a daily lead limit, so we want to make some changes? Or maybe we want to change that daily lead limit, but we've already hit that daily lead limit, right? So everything's already processed. So let's go back to the admin, back to our lead stream page. I'm going to use my quick link this time to get me there faster. Let's go back down here to everyone gets their share. Let's manage our recipients. And let's make a quick change. Let's edit the admin, and let's say the admin, we want to give the admin 100 leads a day. So let's save changes. So now he's got 10, and the daily lead limit is 100. He's already been triggered, or the system has already logged that he's gotten his daily allotment for today. And so the system isn't even thinking about him right now because he's already reached his limit for today, even though we just changed it. But we can kick this off again if we go back to our list of lead streams. So I'm going to go back to the main lead stream page. And what I can do is over here on the right hand side, I'll see these two arrows that kind of cross over each other here. This is kind of like my way of kicking it in the, kicking the side of the computer and saying, hey, do it again, right? I can tell the system to distribute some existing leads by clicking this. So if I click that and then confirm it, that'll tell the system to rerun everything. But what will happen if I go back in here to manage recipients is because not everybody's going to get some, it's going to run through that process. It's going to check to make sure everybody can get some. So here you saw that it was at 47 there for a minute. Now I refresh and it's back at 100, because what it does is it cycles through. And so it looks at Jeff. Okay, Jeff can get one. Heather can't. Cassie can't. Heather can't. Okay, Jeff can get one. So it was just running through until it reached that limit. So it actually ran through this cycle 90 more times to give Jeff 90 more leads, right? So if we go back to contacts, we go to our RoundRobin RR My Leads in Jeff's account. You'll see that there's 100 and everyone gets some. We're now down to 870 leads. So let's go back to our lead stream. So I'm going to go back to Quick Links, lead stream. Let's edit our recipients. Let's get rid of this limit. We're going to remove everybody's limits because I want you to see exactly what's going to happen when we set it up so that there are no limits. Now keep in mind, it's not going to be an even distribution at this point. Why? Because we've already played around with all these different lead limits. But you will see some differences here, right? So Jeff is in this list one time. So every time it cycles through, Jeff is going to get one more. But he's not next in line. Heather's next in line. And Heather's going to get one. Cassie's going to get one. And then Heather's going to get another one. Then Jeff will get one. So it's going to cycle through. Everybody's going to get one. And then it'll go back through again. But Heather's going to have twice as many as Cassie. And we'll get twice as many as Jeff of what's left. But we'll see how that all shakes out. So let's go back to the lead stream page. And let's distribute the existing data again. Let's click on that. That's going to restart everything. Let's go back to manage recipients. And what we'll do is we'll just refresh this a few times. And you'll see everything's starting to cycle through, right? So we're just refreshing. It just keeps going through. So it's got to go through 860 times or whatever that total was to distribute everything out to our team. But you're seeing here, Heather's getting twice as many leads as everyone else in this pool. And eventually, because she's getting twice as many, she'll eventually surpass Jeff because Jeff was only, 90 ahead of her? And so she's going to get twice as many as we cycle through the other 860. So she'll eventually end up with more than everyone else. And if we log in as Heather, you'll see that she's continually getting more and more leads. So she's already at 235, and it continues to grow. So anyway, that's how you can build out a round robin lead stream to distribute data, automatically distribute data to your team. So you don't have to break up the CSV files. You don't have to manually transfer data from one account to another, from the admin to individual users. You can just set it up, and all you have to do is import data or move data into that RoundRobin distribution folder, and the system will just distribute that data for you automatically and evenly. So it's as fair as possible, right? So you're not picking and choosing who gets what lead. The system just randomly grabs a lead and sends it off to everyone. So, so with that being said, the last thing I want to leave you with here before we wrap up, and I know this is a longer training, is a RoundRobin LeadStream is an amazing tool to distribute the data, but you're going to want to pair this with some good saved searches that your team can use to systematically and consistently work through that data. If you've not watched the training that we have for the advanced search or saved searches, you should definitely go through and watch the videos here in the advanced search training module to see how you can get the most out of your data in PhoneBurner. So anyway, that is it. That's what I've got for you here with the RoundRobin LeadStream training. I hope this helps you and your organization get the most out of your data and really helps you as an admin simplify your life on how you distribute data to your team. So thanks again and happy dialing.